WVU head football coach Neal Brown joins us. Coach, good morning. How are you?
Happy, I'm doing very well. How are you, sir?
Are you rested? You look tired after the game Saturday. I got to tell you. You looked whipped.
Well, did you see us play in the third quarter? You look tired, too.
Well said. Well said. What about Zach Frazier? What about Zach Frazier as a player for 4 years and his injury? What's the status of his injury?
So, without getting too much in detail, his injury was a lower leg injury that required a minor procedure that did not keep him out very long, nor is it will affect anything that he's doing in the lead up to the NFL draft. But it will keep him out of the bowl game as much as for precaution as anything. And so I'll say this about Zach Frazier, and I don't know if you listened to a press conference after the game, but
Yes.
I said this. Yeah, I think that one play, he really sums up who he is as a player and what he's meant to the program. Is he gets injured after really carrying Hudson Clement for a first down. He's in really a lot of pain, and he hops off the field so we don't get a 10-second runoff. I mean, just an unbelievably tough individual and highly intelligent. And, you know, he's and I don't want to do any injustice to anybody else that I've coached, but I haven't coached anybody better than Zach Frazier. And he's a great player, and I hope our fan base really appreciates that one of their own, West Virginia native, played 4 years here, started every game but one in his career, and this year led an offensive line that was number one in Power 5 in rushing offense and number 2 in sacks allowed. That's pretty special.
Coach Neal Brown is with us. Did this regular season reach, exceed, or fall short of your expectations?
I don't know. As a coach, you always think you're going to win them all, Happy. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably for other people. What I thought is this team, with where we were at certain positions, I thought we handled ourselves pretty well. Thought there's 2 games that if they went differently, maybe just one game if it went differently, that we had a chance to play in Dallas. You know, in the last play at Houston is really unfortunate. And then we just didn't play very well defensively in the fourth quarter versus Oklahoma State. And so as a coach, you sometimes remember the things that go wrong more than you do the things that go right. But I thought there was a ton of growth this year. And I thought we played – if you think about it, we're one of the least penalized teams in the country. We turned the ball over one of the least amounts of anybody in the country. And we put ourselves we gave ourselves an opportunity to really win all the games except Oklahoma, and then it got away from us a little bit late in the third quarter against Penn State.
How did Garrett Green go from a guy that candidly you all were not exactly confident that he could play relative mistake-free to an absolute playmaker and a driving force on this team? How did that happen?
Coaching, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. He so you and I have talked about Garrett before. Is Garrett's path to being a Power 5 quarterback was different than most. Baseball background, didn't come up playing 7-on-7 year-round football. And so it was a process. He came in here as a really good athlete with great arm talent, but not necessarily a seasoned quarterback. And it's been a process for him. And I think a lot of credit needs to go to him and his family, because you just don't see this very often with quarterbacks or with quarterback families, is they have patience. And that's something that's really something that's lost a lot, not only in athletics, but just in society in general. They have patience. And we as a staff knew that there was talent there. And there was 2 different spring practices where he either split reps or got the majority of the reps, and he just wasn't ready. And last year, toward the end of the year, it started showing that he was making really good progress. And we do we scrimmage with our guys that aren't necessarily playing a lot of snaps. We do it every Monday, and he started showing real growth in those scrimmages in the fall, to the point where we went into the Oklahoma game, and I just said, hey, if we struggle at all, we're going to play. And once we make the decision, we're not going back. And we did struggle. We put him in. He won the Oklahoma game. He played pretty well against Kansas State. We got beat, but he played pretty well against Kansas State. Then we won the game at Oklahoma State. And then you could just see it as it went through from January through the spring, through the summer, into fall camp, just confidence growing. And, he did all of this, and he really played hurt against TCU. His stats all get discredited because he played like 4 snaps against Pitt, so it counts as a whole game. And so I think his stats are a little deceiving because he played 1 game injured. In 1 game, he only played 4 snaps. And so he's a competitor, and he studied the game and became more of a student, and which created less mistakes, less big negative plays.
Coach Neal Brown is with us. Do you expect to be the head football coach of WVU next season?
God willing.
Have you received any assurance that you will be?
No, I'm in regular contact with Ren. I've got a contract. I don't think we necessarily have to talk every single day. I have a really good relationship with him. I have a really good relationship with Dr. Gee, and I feel confident in what we're building and the strides we made. We've got to continue to get better. Our goal is to play in that game that's staged in the first Saturday in December in Dallas. That's our goal, and we're making progress to get there. But I'm very confident in our growth of our program and where we're going. And yes, and I do expect to be here. My family and I enjoyed our time in West Virginia, and we want to see this through. So
you are personally, you and your family are personally satisfied here. You and your family feel like this is a good place for you now? That you I mean, if things work out, and better than anybody, when the season started, it was about wins. You had to win games. You had to show improvement, right? I mean, you understood that. So
yeah,
that's that.
I didn't shy. I was on your radio show. You do a good job for the most part asking direct questions.
Well, for the most part,
which I appreciate. Which I appreciate. No, I didn't shy away from those. I thought those were fair. The first few years here didn't go as we anticipated. There's reasons for that. There's a lot of outside reasons. I think some people misread that as me making excuses. I don't necessarily think it's excuses. I'm just telling the facts. And I thought last year we underperformed. I don't know if I necessarily felt that way until last year, but I thought last year we underperformed. And there were some mistakes that I made that we went back and corrected. I think anytime things don't go the way you want them to go, you always have to look inwardly. And we made some necessary changes. And we had some improvements because of that. And we've got some really good players that have developed and stepped up their game. I think all those things work together to improvement. And we're on the path to being better. And I think this program will continue to grow. There's things that you got to continue. I think the things that you got to continue to recruit. Recruiting is going to be very important.
How about retention? I mean, this is a huge week on retention.
Yeah, I'm going to there next. And so, you got to retain. And so we're in the season of recruiting and retaining right now, and that's going to be vital. And I believe we have the resources to do that. We just got to go out and execute it.
How concerned are you that, and nobody knows, I mean, how much is in the trust, I guess. I mean, not many people do. Do you feel like you have the resources necessary? Do you feel like the resources are there in the trust to maintain the talent level and acquire the talent level you need to be successful?
Well, I'll say this. We've got to continue to grow the trust. And I think the more quality players you have to continue to grow the trust, because it has become a dollar and cents that matters. Let's not ignore the fact it matters. It matters, and that's fair. So we've got to continue to grow the trust. I feel confident in where we're at. We've made a ton of progress, but we've by no means achieved where we want to achieve on the field or in the NIL game, in any of those areas. But we've made really good progress. I do believe that we have the resources necessary to retain the majority of our roster. There's always going to be surprises. That's just kind of what we live in. And you got to be able to handle other programs coming in, and even though it's illegal, actively recruiting off your roster. It's going to happen. And, you know, the NIL stuff really matters, but you also got to have relationships, and you got to be able to show them the growth and development they've made here and that they will continue to make.
Coach Neal Brown, thank you. And, you know, you do a good job for the most part. I mean,
I say good questions. Like I think you're quality. Like here's the thing I really appreciate is that the entrepreneurial minds of the three guys. Like T-shirts, beer. I mean, there's all kind. Like I tell Tony this. He probably does not pass it on to you and Brad. But
no,
like,
never.
But I mean, like the business is booming.
Well, I appreciate that, Coach, and thank you. And enjoy a Kirchavale when you get a quiet evening. Okay.
I've had one. I do. Listen. I thought it was quality, and I hope all the listeners drink your beer second and drink the Country Roads Trust first.
Fair enough. Thanks, Coach. Talk soon. Take care.
All right, thanks, Bobby.